Hey there. So I was looking at an article, was online there, about when creation occurred. When was the actual event of creation? Or when was the universe created, so to speak? And this article was written, it was religious, really. It was written recently. The article itself online was written recently by present day people. But the idea, first off, this article said that creation was 4400 BC, about 6400 years ago. So that's when the earth was created and all life on it, according to them. And what they use, and now that date of 4400 BC, that was also from what I understand, the first event of that, where anyone in the church said it was at 4400 BC or 4000 BC or something like that, was might have been around 1500 something or 1400. From what I understand, there was a monk or something who went through, his research consisted of going through the religious documents, finding the oldest Christian religious documents, or basically the oldest religious documents that he had access to. And also he did some research in like lineages and all that kind of thing. And he actually arrived at the date of 4000 BC. That's when creation started. For what he was able to prove, and this guy was a Dark Ages monk of some kind, from what I understand. That was the first instance of anybody saying that. From what I've been able to put together, that seems to be the oldest example of that I have found myself. Recently, I was looking at some guy. He was rehashing that same stuff, but he was like going through some Bible verses about Corinthians this and all that other stuff. But in the end, you end up with something that can't possibly be true. 4400 BC, that's when the earth started. What about, and you cannot deny this now, what about the archaeological evidence? The fact that like paleontology shows that the earth is millions of years old, hundreds of millions of years. What is it? The sun came into existence. The universe is around 12 billion years old, something like that. It is a number, and it is not that big of a number when you consider how long the reality of the continuum shall exist. We are at the very beginning of time. That's another video. So, to go back to what I was saying. So to go back to what I was saying, the earth is hundreds of millions of years old. And that is the real truth. And the fact that the church just can't accept that truth, the absolute truth. Look, there is physical evidence that proves that the earth and the universe is 12 billion years old at the most, or maybe 13. It is not 6,400 years old. See, the story of the Bible does not account for dinosaurs, no matter what they try to say. And it also doesn't account for the fact that the earth is as old as it is, that the universe is even older than that. They can't account for that. And so, rather than update the story, for the core values of truth that are present in the Word, if they even had an eye to see and an ear to hear, they would know what that is. And they would be able to go with that as their core values, and in that way change their dogma to accommodate discovery. But instead, they are lost in the ignorance of the darkness basically they're lost in the darkness of ignorance. And as such, they cannot see the truth as it really is in their own dogma, their own. Because, look, Christ was God on earth and they don't get it. So they don't know who God was. They are completely clueless. And they don't know the real relationship between God and us either. You know, they're the ones that are stuck in the this from that world. And what is upon them is, you know, look, the world's, the reality is, I can't believe that they're trying to even now suggest that humans and dinosaurs existed at the same time and it was less than 6,000 years ago. In complete opposition to the truth, the real truth. And so, it's unfortunate, though, that these are the ones that have kind of like infested the church. Because the reality of Christ is that this is God for real. And it's unfortunate that they are the ones that have that story, that have the responsibility to bring that story forward, because these are completely the wrong kind of people you'd want to have do anything. Because they are flipping the dime on it and trying to say that it's all about governance, and that God sits upon a throne and all that, and that just isn't the case. Because the reason why they say that is because they just don't understand the real relationship between us and God. And they never will. Because these are people who have forsaken their individuality in order to conform to an identity not theirs. And as that is the only thing they know, the only thing that can wash that away is the actual death itself. So, this is something they will take to their grave with them. This untruth. So I can't help that. All I can do is as I've been doing, bring forth this new idea and then put it in God's hands after that. So the idea that you have a dogma that represents God in a state of perfection. You know, the earth has to be at the center of the universe in representation of that state of perfection. And yet, look, it's not. And the reason why it's not is because the state of perfection idea is not true. See? God doesn't care about perfection. Because He created us to be individually unique, not uniformly perfect. Because God is not. He doesn't care about being perfect. And He doesn't care about perfection, because perfection is a fantasy by those who desire to conform and create this, by those who desire to govern. And this gives them a methodology of that governance. So now they shall govern us all to be perfect. In preparation for what? To be received by God upon the plane of death. Nice of them to give God orders, isn't it? You know, I was thinking the other day, if Christ were to come to the earth today, the church would end up killing Him as a way to repress Him, because He would not support them for what they have become. Well, so I don't know why I had to turn the camera on for this, but the dinosaur thing was just, oh God, that was so absurd. You know? See, the truth of evolution is it is the how, it is not the why. Because look, if you really look at the story, what is really there is proof of God everywhere in it. Because let's go back to that dinosaur thing. Okay? Yes, there were dinosaurs, and it was like hundreds of millions of years ago. But what about, there was like this Chicxulub meteor that hit. Now, this is how there is kind of like an evidence trail that shows that there really is a God. The church is going to be ignorant of this, of course. All right, but there was something about, I saw an article, it was a scientific article that showed the angle at which that meteor hit the Earth and where it hit the Earth. The composite of the ground wouldn't have been an extinction event had it not have hit anywhere else on the Earth but right there. That's the only place it could have hit. Something about the chemical nature or something of that spot. I can't really remember the article right offhand, but it was something along those lines. And in that was a absolute unique spot that had the greatest impact that could cause a global extinction event without like totally destroying life or something like that. I mean, it was it increased the not only the 1 in a billion chance that a meteor that size and all that would hit the Earth, or a asteroid or something, whatever that was. But the angle and the place that it hit, that was like proof of a divine direction, say, because of the fundamental uniqueness of it. So, see, there is a footprint in this universe that really does prove the existence of God for real. And it is the way, and to really get there, to really know that truth, is to think this with that and accept discovery. Well, if you're still stuck there, you know, and all right. So if you insist on being in the darkness of ignorance, then you will be afraid, and therefore you deserve your fear. All right, then. With that, I'll see you next week, or next time.